In intent, expose Batman. While this seems like something any version of Superman would do if they turned bad, it's actually interesting to see that only the Injustice version of Superman actually did it. Yes, after getting fed up of Batman leading the resistance against his totalitarian regime, because, you know, that's a bad thing, Bruce, Superman tells the whole world that Batman is really Bruce Wayne. How does he do this, you may ask? Like a press conference, or like a world message, or like a video? No. None of the above. The dude just frickin' tweets. Superman, in just 4 simple words, tells the world that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Using those 4 words, actually, in that order. From the official Superman Twitter account, by the way. Dude doesn't even use his Clark Kent Twitter. Like, he's still hiding behind his identity, but he decides to out Bruce's. That's hypocrisy right there. But I guess that's all politicians. With over 2.5 million retweets and over 3.5 million favorites, this is certainly #1 on trending for sure. At least until Kim K posts a pic in like a sexy Batman costume, so that the whole Bruce is actually Batman thing moves to #2, and then the whole internet breaks again. And at 9, joining Reverse Flash. In Tales from the Dark Multiverse 1, Flashpoint, we see a world where Barry Allen died while attempting to get his speed back with Thomas Wayne in the Flashpoint timeline. This leads to Reverse Flash claiming to be the Flash and trying to end the war with the Atlanteans and Amazons by threatening them. Obviously, this doesn't work out because they're the goddamn Atlanteans and Amazons. So, in an effort to save himself, Reverse Flash races through time, changing events to create the world exactly how he wants it, which involves saving not only Bruce Wayne, but Martha and Thomas Wayne as well, resulting in a world without a Batman. Because, you know, Batman's gonna fight against Reverse Flash no matter what. So just getting rid of Batman, this is the smartest thing any villain has ever done, straight up. But on the final page of this issue, we see Eobard with all the new heroes he ended up creating and convincing them to join him, as we can see by the Reverse Flash symbols on their suits. Even Green Lantern's and Wonder Woman has one. This page also has a Superman and honestly, 6 suit, but being controlled, or I guess led by the Reverse Flash, makes this utterly horrifying to think about, especially when you can see the other members of the Flash family racing behind Reverse Flash. Like, he finally got what he wanted. Eobard became the Flash, and now he has his own Justice League that serves his own purposes. This should have been higher. And at 8, put Atlantis in the desert. Superman has his dark moments in Injustice. This especially includes Injustice Gods Among Us #12, written by Tom Taylor with art from Mike Miller and Tom Denerick. Injustice Gods Among Us 12 shows readers Aquaman unleashing Atlantean armies on coastal cities around the globe as a way to show Superman that, you know, it's not gonna happen. Atlantis will not be taken. Superman, of course, takes this as a threat, because of course he does, and you know, Batman knew this would happen. But Aquaman, being Aquaman, refuses to back down, and Superman decides to teach him a lesson. But rather than actually like attacking and probably killing Aquaman, Superman enlists the help of Wonder Woman and the Green Lantern to literally lift Atlantis from the ocean and set it down in the middle of the Sahara Desert, as far from water as he could possibly get on Earth. Honestly, he might as well just put them in space, although that would just be like direct murder and everyone would have gotten mad at that. But like, honestly, I don't think Superman is above that. This guy is a frickin' monster.
Number 7, Squadron Sinister. This isn't so much an evil alternate Justice League as this team actually appears in the Marvel universe. But I'm gonna count it because I'm just stubborn like that. The original Squadron Sinister was created as a sort of obvious play on DC Comics' Justice League characters Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, with the characters Hyperion, Nighthawk, Dr. Spectrum, and the hilariously named Wizard, respectively. The team was created by the Grand Master after he encountered the Squadron Supreme, and they first appeared in Avengers number 69 when they were pitted against the Avengers in a game between the Grand Master and Kang the Conqueror. They're bad guys who are counterparts to 4 members of the Justice League. I gotta stop justifying my reasons, they're on the list. Argue with me down below if you don't like it.
Alright, at number 6 we have the Justice Lords. Appearing in the animated series Justice League in the episode titled A Better World, this evil team is led by a radicalized Superman. Radicalized because he witnesses Lex Luthor murder the Flash and threaten nuclear war. So, Superman decides he'd abandon the typical hero's code of conduct and kill the bald tyrant himself. And in this alternate universe, Lex Luthor isn't just some super rich supervillain working away and hiding. learning he's actually worked his way to becoming the President of the United States. So, after his death, there is a power vacuum to be filled. And who would be better rulers than this evil alternate Justice League? No one. They didn't think so anyway, so they take over and put in place a totalitarian government with the justification being that they are protecting humanity from itself. And they start calling themselves the Justice Lords, which, I mean, you should sort of know you're the bad guys when the word Lord is in your title. Luckily, the real Superman is able to catch on and take them out of power before anything goes too far. At number 4, we have the Injustice Syndicate. I know, lots of groups with Syndicate and Injustice in their names. Well, that's because this evil version of the Justice League actually exists as a sort of combination between the Injustice League and the Crime Syndicate, both of which are included in this list respectively. Appearing in Batman the Brave and the Bold, in the episode called Deep Cover for Batman, Batman manages to travel to their evil dimension and infiltrate their operations disguised as Owlman. He sees that this group comprises of an evil version of himself, along with other evil alternate versions of other heroes he knows and works with. While eavesdropping, Batman learns of their plans to, destroy other universes entirely, which of course, he feels is something he needs to put a stop to. And it can't wait, naturally. So he decides to take all of them on himself, and because he's Batman, and it is his TV show after all, he wins. Those universes can thank him later.
Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Injustice. I think the whole Injustice Earth is enough of a sin to earn a spot on this list. Just the entirety of the Injustice world is truly an injustice. In a parallel universe, the Joker tricks Superman into killing his pregnant wife Lois Lane and detonating a nuclear weapon that destroys Metropolis, killing millions of people. Mad with grief and rage, and because, Lois Lane died in this universe, Superman goes dark and murders the Joker, quickly losing his moral compass. 5 years after this moment, Superman has formed the One Earth regime to enforce global peace through fear, and rules the Earth as a ruthless dictator with an iron fist. Or I guess a steel fist. Get it? Because he's the Man of Steel. Anyway, alongside many other heroes and villains, he recruited or forced into joining him and killing any who oppose him. Batman ends up establishing the insurgency, which is actually supposed to oppose Superman's regime, and then that's why he exposes his identity. But then the ensuing war between the factions just leaves the Justice League disbanded. But either way, this is probably one of the darkest timelines. Penultimately, in at number 2, ruled the world. Usually when people talk about Superman ruling the world, they're talking about injustice. And while that is a great story and an example of what can go wrong with superheroes, the story of the King of the World is actually a good cautionary tale about Superman other than injustice. In the late 90s, this story features a series of prophecy-like dreams that make Superman realize that his regular MO of just flying around and waiting for disasters to happen isn't really working. And Kal-El decides to be a little more, proactive. In this case, that means building a series of spy satellites to survey Earth, helping Superman keep track of everything that's happening all at once, and then giving up his life as Clark Kent to work as Superman full time. Sleep deprived and losing his grip on humanity, Superman starts interfering more and more in Earth's affairs, toppling extremist governments and even changing the weather. When he realizes that he still can't be everywhere at once though, the Man of Steel deploys an army of Superman robots to help maintain law and order. Again, making him a benevolent dictator, only snapping out of it when he gets a kiss from Lois Lane. None of the Justice League really tries to stop him either, they just kind of accept it, which is surprising, especially for Batman. Although I find it funny how the Man of Steel deployed Men of Steel. And finally, in at number 1, getting Alfred killed. Look, after Bruce Wayne loses his parents, Thomas and Martha, he's a young boy, okay? The only person who can truly take care of Bruce is Alfred Pennyworth, the Wayne family butler. However, Alfred ends up becoming like a second father to Bruce, raising him to adulthood and caring for him throughout his entire life. He also cares for Bruce's children, as a grandfather, and sometimes even more of a father than Bruce to them. Alfred is incredibly important to Bruce, and probably the only family that the man truly has left. But in Injustice Year 5, number 23, Alfred is spending his birthday alone at Wayne Manor. Unbeknownst to him, Superman has sent the supervillain Victor Zsasz to interrogate him, an altercation which will ultimately result in Alfred's death. I know it was the Injustice Earth, okay, and Supes is a horrible person there, but honestly, think about it. This is the worst thing that Superman and by proxy his Injustice League has ever done. Because Alfred is the purest character in all of DC Comics. And in the moment that Alfred died, so did a piece of the DC universe. It doesn't matter if it was in one of Infinite Earths and it was one of Infinite Alfreds, none of them deserved this.
Number 10, the Super Enemies. Starting off our list today with a Dark Justice League with no comic origins comes the Super Enemies, an alternate universe version of the Super Friends devoted to the cause of deceit, injustice, and terror. The team consists of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Robin, Aquaman, Zan, Jaina, and Gleek. However, they have no morals and are just evil mirrored versions of the Super Friends. In the episode they're featured in, the Super Friends meet these evil duplicates in the Hall of Evil, which is their Hall of Justice. The Super Enemies frequently taunt the authorities, who are powerless to stop them, although the civilian police are actually equipped to just straight up take them down, as they have kryptonite lasers to stop evil Superman. The Superman of the Super Friends universe first met them when he was mysteriously transported into their universe while trying to stop a volcano from erupting, while their Superman was transported into the Super Friends universe. As Superman tried to escape from the Super Enemies and the military armed with kryptonite weapons, the evil Superman was transported to the real universe to fight the Super Friends. Superman Prime ended up getting an antimatter flask that switched them back, which was good news for everyone. And then later on, Lex Luthor organized his own Legion of Doom to be the real anti-Justice League, and it had a much better name. Check out the one-off appearance of this evil team in 1979 Super Friends episode Universe of Evil. Number 9, Conglomerate. The Justice League doesn't always have to consist of the same roster. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a huge Batman and Superman fan, but there is also a smaller and less powerful team called Justice League International. And Mark Waid and Rod Wiggum had them face their evil duplicates in 1992. In the previous story, Booster Gold had just left the JLI to found his own corporate-sponsored team called the Conglomerate. Now that didn't work out too well, and the owner decided to pull new heroes out of another reality to form a new conglomerate of Deadeye, who's an alternate Green Arrow, Fiero, an alternate Fire, Frostbite, aka Ice, Elastoman, aka Elongated Man, Element Man, aka Metamorpho, Scarab, an alternate Blue Beetle, and Slipstream, an alternate Flash. The conglomerate decided to challenge the JLI to a quote-unquote friendly competition that quickly turned violent when they realized the new conglomerate were all from Quard, an evil antimatter world. The JLI managed to get them back into their own world, but it was a very close call to say the least. Check out the first appearance of the conglomerate in 1991's Justice League Quarterly number 1, or feel free to skip ahead to 1992's Justice League Quarterly number 8 for the fight of a lifetime. Number 8, Flashpoint. In an effort to stop his mother's murder, Barry Allen created the Flashpoint timeline, a significantly darker reflection of the main DC universe and one of my favorite DC storylines to date. In this timeline, Thomas Wayne becomes Batman after Bruce is killed instead of him, Wonder Woman is like a tyrannical ruler of the Amazons and is locked in a crazy war with Aquaman because she killed his wife, and Superman is nowhere to be found, which means the Justice League technically doesn't exist, and honestly, what's darker than that? Probably a decent amount because this is only number 8, but anyways. If you're not familiar with this timeline, then I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. It is such a good one. All I'll say is that by the end of the series, several major characters are dead, and then in the expanded universe of the Flashpoint timeline, even more characters are revealed to be dead. It's just nuts. Thankfully, Barry managed to fix things before it was too late, but that wasn't enough to erase the Flashpoint timeline completely. Because of that, the DC universe is still dealing with the events of Flashpoint even to this day. Give it a read for yourself, starting with 2011's Flashpoint Volume 2, number 1.
And it's 7, killing Green Arrow. Being as powerful as he is, it's important that Superman keeps a tight grip on his sanity and his powers, because, you know, a huge part of the reason that Clark trusts Bruce with shards of kryptonite is because he knows that he can end up being used as a weapon, or just going crazy if Lois dies. In this case, he wants Batman to stop him using that kryptonite. However, when Superman goes too far, sometimes nobody's actually there to stop him. In Injustice Gods Among Us number 11, the issue before Superman dropped Atlantis in the Sahara Desert, when the Green Arrow is trying to distract Superman, he fires an arrow at him that bounces off Superman because, you know, it's not a kryptonite arrow, but then it hits his father, Jonathan Kent, in the shoulder. It doesn't kill him. He's fine, he just got shot in the shoulder, but Superman gets so enraged at this that he flies at Green Arrow and immediately starts beating him to death in a furious rage. I mean, like, killing him would be one thing because he's Oliver Queen and he's like one of the sexiest men alive, but brutally beating him is something else entirely, especially with his mother yelling at him, begging for him to stop. Like, dude, listen to your mom, she knows best. eat your vegetables. And it's 6, Batman's backup plan. At this point, it's pretty well known that Bruce Wayne kept files and tools to destroy each of the members of the Justice League if it was necessary. Though Clark, like I said, wants Batman to have this ability since he fears himself if he ends up getting manipulated or whatnot, like literally every time Brainiac shows up. But the other Justice League members have not given Batman their information or been like, yeah man, you can do that. In JLA The Tower of Babel by Mark Waid and Howard Porter, Batman is shown to keep secret records of how to completely destroy each and every member of the Justice League. These records are then taken by Ra's al Ghul and used to decimate the League, proving an ultimate betrayal on the part of Bruce Wayne. Okay, I get it, I understand the desire to be prepared since, people in this universe seem to be turned by villains like Brainiac on a regular basis. But that's what Task Force X is for. That's why we have a whole game called Kill the Justice League. You don't need to have a super secret, this is how you kill all of us hard drive that just begs for every single villain to try and steal it. It's kind of stupid how you thought that was a good idea. All you need to do is have it in your brain. You're the world's greatest detective and you couldn't detect that that was a bad idea. Halfway through into number 5, Wonder Woman destroying the Justice League. When it comes to power and skill levels, Wonder Woman is arguably one of the strongest members of the Justice League. Characters like Superman and Martian Manhunter may have incredible power as aliens, and Superman especially may well just be the most powerful hero of all, but Wonder Woman is also basically a deity, at least being a god adjacent, because she's an Amazon. She's one of DC's most powerful heroes, if not their most powerful hero, especially if Kryptonite's around, and she has to keep her abilities and powers in check, much like how Spider-Man always has to pull his punches so he doesn't kill someone. However, in a one-shot called JLA A League of One, written by Christopher Moeller, Wonder Woman realizes that the Justice League are just holding her back. She realizes that the entire league will be destroyed if she doesn't stop them herself, so she takes on each member of the Justice League and takes them down on her own so that she can act individually, kinda like a mini version of Marvel's Civil War but on a much smaller and less daunting scale. Though understandable, this is still an initial betrayal and a major hurt. Luckily for Wonder Woman, her team does forgive her, because, she didn't actually kill them. Maybe she was just having a midlife crisis, we don't know. In at 4, Aquaman and Wonder Woman War. Ha, it rhymes. Ah, look at that, I managed to squeeze 2 Flashpoint numbers onto this list, hell yeah. I mean, they're different Flashpoints, but still. In the animated The Flashpoint Paradox movie in the DC animated universe, the world is much different to its CW counterpart, and kind of the general DC universe, mostly due to the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who end up being the villains of the movie, thanks to them being former lovers while Aquaman was married to Mira, and then Wonder Woman then killed Mira when she tried to get revenge for her sleeping with her husband. But to be fair, she also wears Mira's crown after she kills her, so it's not really like it was oh yeah, it was self-defense. However, this war actually resulted in the destruction of the planet at the exact moment that Barry was able to get enough speed back to get back into the Speed Force and set everything straight. It's a really suspenseful moment where Reverse Flash had just been killed by Batman, so Barry would have enough speed to run back and stop himself from saving his mother. He managed to get into the Speed Force just before the world's destruction caught up with him. It's absolutely insane. It's very Justice League Zack Snyder cut-esque. However, I'm pretty sure they got it from this movie either way. He managed to get back into the Speed Force before the world's destruction, and then the world was destroyed. But so yeah, it's a bad thing, okay? Even if the Justice League isn't really a thing in this universe, it was still their fault.
Number 2, the new Reichman. Ever wonder what would happen if Superman didn't crash land in Kansas and instead he crash landed in, I don't know, Germany? Well, wonder no longer, because on Earth 10 that is the reality. On Earth 10, the Germans used Superman, known as Overman in this universe, to win World War II and basically take over the world. As a champion of Germania and the leader of the new Reichman, Overman is accompanied by Brunhilde, Earth 10's Wonder Woman, Leatherwing aka Batman, Blitzen aka The Flash, The Martian, Martian Manhunter, Underwater Man aka Aquaman, and Overgirl aka Supergirl, who was unfortunately killed in battle. Alongside the German forces, Overman conquered the world in less than 20 years, after which he decided to leave the Earth for a while. 3 years later, he returned with a clear head and saw all of the damage he helped cause and became an advocate against all that he once stood for, well, still working alongside them for some reason. Eventually, German scientists used callus cells to create a clone of him known as Overgirl that Overman loved like family. However, she died not too long after her creation, and this hit him hard. Inconsolable and grief-stricken, Overman leaked some precious information to the freedom fighters that resulted in the demise of the new Reichman and Metropolis as well. Check out probably one of the saddest Superman stories I have ever heard, starting with 2015's The Multiversity Guidebook, number 1.
Number 9. Justice League of Assassins. Unfortunately, this evil Justice League didn't stick around too long. Being first introduced in Superman Volume 4, number 15 in March 2017, the Justice League of Assassins on Earth 14 were a group of augmented, mostly non-superpowered soldiers led by the obviously powerful Superman. The team was made up of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Harley Quinn, and Green Lantern. With the exception of Superman, their powers relied mainly on weapons and technology, but primarily they used advanced firearms. Ultimately, they were all slaughtered, with this Superman being kidnapped by Prophecy, which is a shame, because this team looked super cool and they seemed to inhabit a pretty dark and grim looking post-apocalypse. Could have been very interesting.
Number 7. The Crime Society. Hailing from Earth 3 comes the Crime Society of America, but not to be confused with the Crime Syndicate of America, who we may or may talk about later on. Consisting of Johnny Quick II, Owlman II, Power Ring, Superwoman, Ultraman, and a few others, this team of villains is basically just evil doppelgangers of the Justice League and the Justice Society. The Crime Society encountered and fought the Challengers, consisting of Donna Troy, Jason Todd, Kyle Rayner, and Bob the Monitor, and the Jokester. After the Challengers and the Jokester escaped to another universe, the Crime Society were offered a place among Monarch's transdimensional army, which they accepted, of course. The Crime Society went on to fight on Earth 51 and battle the Monitors. When Superboy Prime subsequently caused the destruction of Earth 51's reality, it's unknown if any of the Crime Society were able to actually survive that. Now, while we're waiting to hear their fate, why not check out their story for yourself, starting with 2007's 52, number 52. Number 6. Kingdom Come Justice League. In 1996, Alex Ross and Mark Waid teamed up to create the miniseries Kingdom Come. This miniseries was set in a near future where the traditional heroes of the past came together to stop the brutal superheroes of the new generation. The new Justice League of elderly but still very strong heroes like Superman and Green Lantern set up a prison to hold rogue heroes and supervillains alike. Unfortunately, the Gulag erupted in a riot between metahumans that threatened to destroy the entire world, and that caused, let's just say, a little bit more trouble for these geriatric heroes. In an act of desperation, the United Nations launched several nuclear bombs over the Gulag site. Batman and Wonder Woman deactivated 2 of them, but one of them was still primed and falls over the battlefield. Superman attempts to stop the bomb, but Marvel throws him back and stops the bomb himself, detonating it prematurely over the Gulag, killing a lot of the League, Cavalry, and many of the inmates as well. What makes the storyline so dark is that throughout the story, the Justice League struggle to follow their own morals, even as they impose their own brand of justice on a very unhappy world. Batman in particular sided with Lex Luthor to quote-unquote liberate mankind from the Justice League. In the end, Superman saw his failure, but only at the cost of thousands of lives. Check out the entire miniseries for yourself, starting with 1996's Kingdom Come, number 1.
Number 3. The Joker League. In Emperor Joker number 1 of October 2000, the Joker has gained 99.99% of the reality warping powers of the 5th dimensional being, Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he used them to completely warp the world into an insane offshoot of our real world. In this Joker world, he has put together an evil, insane version of the Justice League called the Joker League of Anarchy. The team members include some characters we've seen before, such as Bizarro number 1, Enigma, who's the Riddler, Gravedigger Lad, who is actually Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. He has also created completely new characters that are wholly original to this story: Ignition, Bounty, Schism, and Scorched. He even has Lex Luthor as a jester. They are basically just the henchmen of this already pretty much all-powerful version of the Joker. Just another way of keeping him entertained, it seems.